It's great to have you rejoin us, and yes, indeed, you're still watching the After Business Morning, and this is Global Business, where we take a look at business news stories around the continent of Africa and indeed the rest of the world. My name is Ubong Kings. Here are the headlines making the rounds. We're starting off in West Africa, where it's reported that East Africa specifically, where it's reported that China is signing a deal to upgrade Zambia-Tanzania railway. Also, Volkswagen workers blast management over plant closures. As different foreign scene, Volvo set to sell only EVs by 2030 as demand fails. We'll bring you details of these news stories and more right after this break. Stay tuned. You're watching Global Business right here on the After Business Morning, and we like to begin with business news stories from Africa. East Africa specifically, where it's reported that China has signed a deal with Tanzania and Zambia to rehabilitate a decade-old railway aimed at improving rail sea transportation in resource-rich East Africa, where the upgrade of the old railway will help landlocked Zambia, Africa's second-largest copper producer, in exporting its metal through Tanzania, and it could also become a key route for exporting copper to China, the world's largest consumer of this metal, which is used for the production of air conditioners and electric vehicles. Meanwhile, this agreement was overseen by the heads of states from the three countries during the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, marking the most significant enhancement of the Taraza railway since Mao Zedong's support for its construction in the 1970s. Very quickly now, let me take you down memory lane. The truth is that this story has a bit of history attached to it. Now, are you aware that the railway in question, which is called Tazara, that's what it's called, Tazara, existed way back in 1970, and it is to connect Tanzania, Zambia, and guess what? China. Right now, before you judge the motive of this development, CGN TV Africa captures this ancient old relationship between Tanzania and China in this particular report. Let's take a look.
Tanzania and China recently celebrated their cooperation when it comes to railroads. Hundreds of officials, students, and ordinary civilians gathered to witness Tazara retraced. Teachers from the Confucius Institute of Dar es Salaam taught Chinese song. And pamphlets were handed out on the history of China's and Tanzania's railway.
The most thing is to know the history between China and Tanzania, because we see Chinese people in Tanzania, we see the good relationship we have with them, but we didn't know the history of it.
The young people in the crowd were invited for a reason. Both Tanzania and China consider them the future of the country. But some veterans were there too, ones who built the railway in the first place.
We shall advertise ourselves to let the youth know under what conditions China assisted Tanzania in such difficult conditions.
Tazara is a huge railway network that stretches for nearly 2,000 kilometers. It connects East, Central, and Southern Africa. It's considered China's largest foreign construction project. 50,000 Chinese engineers and technicians helped build the network. 64 of them died.
And moving on to other business stories from this time from the world of tech, it's reported that the Chinese battery giant CATL has announced plans to grow its battery swapping network in China over the next 3 years, which means that by 2027, CATL aims to have built 3,000 battery swapping stations and is gearing up to grow to 10,000 stations. Meanwhile, CATL currently has around 2,500 battery swapping active in China, and when it launched the brand in 2022, CATL stated that it wanted to be open to offering the service to all car companies and aims to build the world's largest service network in 2 to 3 years. Let's hold up a minute or two. This reminds me of something I shared some time ago here on Global Business, where I took a story about the new trend in the automotive industry about battery swapping. I did play a video one time, but that was some 2 months ago. But right here, of course, on Global Business. And this particular story is resurfacing, but this time it is about CATL, who now, at the moment, have 2,500 battery swapping outlets active in China. Now, let's look at this particular narrative about the brand CATL, which is propagated by CGTN TV, and they're taking a look at their journey thus far and the prospects of the future. Let's take a look.
What things can happen in just 1 second? Blink your eyes once, a drop of water falls. Take a step forward. In just 1 second, a world of possibilities unfolds. And in the collection of most advanced technology, one battery cell will be produced at Chinese battery producer CATL, the biggest EV battery supplier in the world. At the heart of every electric car lies the power battery, composed of numbers of battery cells that serve as the foundation. CATL produces hundreds of millions of these cells each year. One of the CATL standout features is the extreme manufacturing process, setting it apart from competitors in the battery game. In its production line of the battery cell, they can produce a cell in 1 second on average and one battery pack in 2.5 minutes.
I'm fully suited as its cleanliness requirements for the factory with controlled temperature and humidity and no dust.
The whole plant has to filter the air for 25 times per hour. The cleanliness is like the heart bypass surgery operating room, while the area is 1,000 times larger. And the entire battery production line is about 1,500 meters long. And after post-processing, including baking, injecting electrolyte, charge and discharge test, the whole production with over 20 procedures is complete. And we finally got the finished battery cells, ready to be assembled into a battery pack.
Extreme manufacturing requires core technologies, including smart technologies, to achieve our strict requirements. For example, CATL uses an ultra-thin copper foil measuring only 4.5 microns in the coating of their battery cells, which is thinner than the average 6 micron commonly used in the industry. Our cell-to-pack technology eliminates the module structure by directly assembling the battery with the cell. This innovation improves the energy density of the battery.
Many well-known automakers such as Tesla, Porsche, and BMW utilize batteries from CATL. Due to its advanced manufacturing processes and technologies, CATL has achieved rapid iteration of high-quality products. During Auto China 2024, the company unveiled its Shenxing Plus series batteries, capable of delivering a range of 1,000 kilometers. A 10-minute charge allows for 600 kilometers cruising distance.
Well, we'll follow up on those stories to give you, put you in the loop as to what's happening in the world of tech, the world over. You're still watching Global Business right here on the Afia Business Morning on Afia TV. You may want to join in on this conversation and more on our dedicated Afia Business YouTube channel. Kindly type in the search bar www.youtube.com/Afia Business, and while you're there, do to hit the like button and subscribe for notifications so you stay updated on all business-related content coming to you from Afia TV. Up next will be more business news stories and from the world of automobile right after this break. Stay tuned. Yeah, welcome back to the Afia Business Morning right here on Afia TV, and you are still watching Global Business. Now we're moving on to the rest of our stories, and this time around from the automobile world, was reported that workers of Volkswagen, a German automobile manufacturer, has criticized the executive board for suggesting plant closures in Germany and also threatening job security, as Volkswagen chief's financial officer said the company may not survive the transition to electric cars unless it cuts costs following the deteriorating economy and stiff competition from China. Meanwhile, Volkswagen employs almost 700,000 staff who enjoy secure working conditions that were negotiated in the 1990s. The chief Finance Officer Arno Antios pleaded with workers to agree to these cuts. Now, let's try to put this conversation in perspective real quickly. First of all, by now, I bet you're already aware that the Volkswagen brand had already announced that it will be terminating services and closing factories in several locations in Germany. I did share this story earlier this particular week, and now, as expected, workers of the German car brand are revolting against that development. Oh well, Euronews reports on this particular story in a little more detail. Let's take a look.
Volkswagen Works Council criticised the executive board in a meeting held at the Wolfsburg plant on Wednesday. An estimated 16,000 VW plant workers turned up for the meeting. Chairperson Daniela Cavallo blamed the executive board for not doing its job and said that labour costs are not the problem.
Wir haben aufgezeigt, dass es zu kurz gegriffen ist, nur über Arbeitskosten zu sprechen und über Standortschließungen, denn es gibt ganz viele Stellhebel, die das Unternehmen zu verantworten hat. Da geht es uns darum, dass wir natürlich wettbewerbsfähige, gute Produkte haben müssen, die die Kundschaft uns aus den Händen reißt. Uns fehlen die Einstiegsmodelle in der Elektromobilität.
Volkswagen say that the company may not survive the transition to electric cars unless it cuts costs, following a deteriorating economy and stiff competition from China.
Wir erwarten vom Vorstand, wie wir das immer getan haben, dass wir Lösungen finden, wie wir natürlich das Thema Wirtschaftlichkeit umsetzen, weil uns ist besonders klar als Betriebsrat, wenn wir nicht Geld verdienen, können wir uns die Investitionen nicht leisten und dann können wir uns auch nicht die Zukunft organisieren.
These possible plant closures are another strike for the current coalition government, as the German economy is largely dependent on the car industry.
Well, still on more business news stories from the automobile world, and in an attempt to end this bulletin, let's bring in the report. The Swedish automaker Volvo Cars has abandoned its plan to become a fully electric car manufacturer by 2030 due to weakening consumer demand for pure electric vehicles, where its shares fell by more than 4% and have declined by 2% over the past 6 months. Furthermore, Volvo still expects to produce 50 to 60% electrified vehicles by the middle of this decade, which could position it to become a fully electric car maker when conditions are suitable, as they target 90 to 100% of its global sales volume by 2030 to consist of electric cars, which includes a mix of fully electric cars and plug-in hybrid modules. Now, this report brings a lot of dimensions to before. First is, why does it appear that electric vehicles are beginning to wane? That's the drive, so to speak, the want for electric vehicles beginning to wane in the European Union as compared to Asia. It's also because even Volvo Cars right now has abandoned its plan to become a fully electric car manufacturer by 2030, plus the fact that its shares fell by more than 4% and have declined by about 12% over the past 6 months. Now, this is in contrast with China. China, on the other hand, is still producing like what you don't know. But then, to drive home this point, EVpedia took the time to look into this matter and reports.
Volvo slashed its margin and revenue ambitions for the second time in a year on Thursday. It comes a day after the Swedish car maker, which is majority owned by China's Geely, gave up on its electric vehicle-only target due to the impact of tariffs and lower demand for EVs. EU, US and Canadian tariffs on electric cars made in China have made market conditions increasingly difficult for automakers. Overall demand for EVs has also slowed, partly because of a lack of affordable cars. Volvo Cars lowered its targets for operating profit margin, excluding joint ventures and associates, to 7 to 8% from above 8%. It also scrapped the sales goal of up to $58.4 billion, instead saying it expected to outgrow the premium car market. Volvo walked back margin and revenue goals on another occasion earlier this year. In January, it gave up a target for annual sales of 1.2 million cars annually by mid-decade, which was first announced 3 years ago. Shares in Volvo Cars were up 3% early Thursday, having fallen sharply the previous day on news of the abandoned EV target.
We'll follow up with this story and other stories as they unfold and keep you in the loop just so you stay informed. And then again, you can stay informed by getting to our dedicated Afia Business YouTube channel by kindly tapping in the search bar www.youtube.com/@AfiaBusiness. While you're there, do well to like and hit the subscribe button so you get notifications on all business-related content coming to you from Afia TV. You're still watching the Afia Business Morning Live on Afia TV. Coming up next will be a conversation on pretty much all the issues bordering on the conversations we had here on the Eastern Business Report in the course of this week, right after this break. The Afia Business Morning, we'll be right back. My name is Ubong Kings. Stay tuned.